What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another video today, and in this video we are doing the 75th installment of Retro Reviews. Today we're going to be reviewing my Gemini Jets 1:400 scale Delta Airlines Boeing 737-200 in the Widget livery. Welcome everyone to Delta Month. All month long in the Retro Review series, we will be taking a look at various Delta Widget aircraft that I have in my collection that I have not reviewed yet. And there's going to be a nice set of them, some really cool gems, a lot of old releases are going to be in here. So I hope you guys are excited for Delta Month. We are doing this in anticipation for Airliners International 2025, happening in Atlanta, June 25th through 28th at the Delta Flight Museum, just a few weeks away. So if you want the latest details, check out the latest preparation video over on CM Aviation's channel, which I've collaborated with them on. And we talk about all of the latest details that we know with the convention regarding tours, seminars, and other events that are going to be happening at the convention this year. It's going to be a fun convention this year, and I'm super excited to attend. This will be my 4th year going to the show, so already building up the experience with this show, and I am super excited about it, along with some other things that'll be happening around that time. So stay tuned for details. But at any rate, we continue with this retro review, and as always, we will go ahead and get started with a box. So we have the limited edition titles up here, die-cast model 1:400 scale, image of the model, and then we have the Delta logo. This was the original soft widget logo for the Delta Flight livery before they switched to the Heritage one in 2004 amid their 75th anniversary. Boeing 737-200, made for collectors by collectors, the OG Gemini Jets logo, so this is made before the whole Gemini Jets 2 thing happened. Boeing license disclaimer. And then on the inside, there's the plastic cradle, which has yellowed significantly, which is a very common thing amongst these older Gemini Jets releases, especially if they're not stored in a climate-controlled environment or are exposed to sunlight. About your collectible there on the left, which we'll take a look at when we do the real-life aircraft's history later in the video, and other information about the 737-200. And then on the back, this is a 2003 release, specifically made in the month of April. So this model is over 22 years old. And I'll show you the other sides as well. We've got the Gemini Jets logo. There's a model, image of the model. There's the Delta logo, aircraft type. Item number is GJDAL 170, so a very old model. Top of the box with the barcode, and then the bottom of the box down there, which does feature the registration number. Kind of wish that they would bring that back, because I think that's really cool and a nice way to keep track of which registrations you have, especially if you have duplicates, if they've done multiple releases of the same type over the years, without having to check the model, or if you store them in the boxes, you don't have to remove them or, really examine the box that much. But that's just kind of my personal preference with it, but at the end of the day, these boxes are really nice, and I love the silver design that they had back in the day. So there it is, the Delta 737-200 by Gemini Jets. And originally this was one of the many white whales for this project, but thankfully I've narrowed it down to just 3, which thankfully I've gotten them now, which is awesome. So super excited about that, and this is one of the first big white whales that I acquired for this project. And I'll talk about how I got it here once we're done with this review, since I went on there pretty long about Airliners International, so there you go. So I'll go ahead and try to get that all centered up, and there we go. Starting off at the front, we've got the nose cone, cockpit windows, and this is all black here on the front, and there should be like a different shade, but it's not really represented here, so can't do too much there. L1 door, there's a big Delta widget, and then there's the Delta titles, along with the polished underbelly, which looks like it may be tarnished a little bit there underneath. So, what can you do? This is an old model anyway. There's this small Delta widget on the engines there. Rear of the aircraft, also an overwing exit door right there. Registration is November 331 Delta Lima and the American flag. Boeing 737 behind the rear door, and then the Delta tail. And there's also a fleet code printed at the top of the tail. On the other side of the aircraft, not too much to report on here. A couple luggage doors. You know the drill with this at this point. And maybe a little more tarnishing here on the back. So, yeah, that's kind of a thing with these polished models, is that if you don't apply like that clear coat or whatever to protect the metal underneath, then it does tarnish over time. But there's the underneath of the aircraft with the Gemini Jets logo stand hole, and it's actually the OG one with the bigger G, the letter G there in Gemini Jets. I'll go and zoom in on that, but look at the detailing on that. That's really good for 2003. So yeah, that's the original Gemini Jets logo, which you will see on a lot of the older models. And there's kind of a better look there at the tarnishing. Honestly, it's not that bad. It actually makes the model look more natural because over time, the actual polish on these aircraft would wear out. So it does make it look a little more natural, a little more like the real life thing, especially in its later years. I forgot to show the top of the aircraft as well, but there's the overwing exit markings and a little beacon light, made well before antennas became a staple on these 1:400 scale models. So now for the story as to how I got this. This was opened on Christmas Day of 2022, and I was on the phone with Connor, CM Aviation, and he saw on the Waffle Collectibles collection sale, I think it was him that spotted it first, or maybe it was the other way around, but either way, this was bought off of a Waffle Collectibles collection sale, and I know that Connor, this was when he was building up his fleet for his Retro Tulsa Airport project, and he also needed this model as well, and thankfully he did get it a few months later. So he ended up letting me buy this so that I could have this for my Retro FSD project. So I'm very thankful that he allowed me to do that so I could build up on the Retro FSD fleet, especially for Christmas 2022, which was Massive Unboxing number 13. That featured a whole slew of Retro FSD models and really catapulted the project to the state that it reached, especially through 2023 and beyond. And I know that the updates have been a little bit less frequent lately just because I haven't been able to acquire as many models lately and I've been focusing on other things. So that project has not necessarily been put on the shelf, but it just kind of gone a little slower in terms of the frequency. So that's why I haven't seen as many uploads lately, but hopefully it'll pick up, especially after the convention. So now let's take a look at the real-life aircraft's history. This aircraft first flew on November 1st of 1984, and it was delivered to Delta just a couple of weeks later. She stayed with Delta for her entire career, and she did wear a variety of different liveries. Of course, the Widget livery as represented here from her delivery until around 1996. And after that, she then went to Delta Express, which was their first attempt at an airline within an airline. And when Delta Express first came around, they had these new Delta titles, which would be fully introduced on their Ron Allen livery that came out in 1997. So around 1996, this aircraft was painted into the Delta Express Widget livery. She had that livery until around 2001, and then eventually she got the Delta Flot livery variation, which Gemini Jets also released, and she wore that for a couple of years. Then Delta Express folded, and she went back to just being a normal Delta aircraft, and she would wear the Delta Flot livery for the last couple of years of her career, from 2003 to about 2005 or so. She was put into storage when Delta retired the 737-200 from their fleet, and the aircraft was scrapped in 2009. So there we go, our first of 4 retro reviews that will be on Delta Airlines Widget aircraft in my collection as part of Delta Month, as we build up the hype around Airliners International 2025, June 25th through 28th at the Delta Flight Museum, which of course has the very iconic Spirit of Delta 767. Super excited to check it out for the first time, and they did renovate it over the winter, so there's some new artifacts, some new exhibits in there, so I'm super excited to check it out. A nice fresh look for Airliners International this year, since they have been there twice before in the museum in 2015 and 2019, so this will be their 3rd time there with a fresh look, so make things look even more exciting for those coming back to the show in Atlanta, and especially for those attending the show in Atlanta for the first time. And I know they always have that annual one-day collectible show in October. That'll certainly look cool when they come around later this year for their event. So hopefully you guys are excited for the rest of Delta Month, and especially with Airliners International coming around the corner. A lot of exciting things are coming for the channel, and I will have talked about that in the channel update, which I released a few days ago, so go check that out if you want some more information as to what's coming for the channel, because it's a lot, and especially with Airliners International, it is going to fill up my schedule, at least for the foreseeable future, after around June 28th or so, or whenever I upload that first video. So I'm super excited for it, and hope you guys are as well, and hopefully you guys are looking forward to all the content coming. With that being said, that is the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.